This is a 2 rupee troll, or it's much more profitable than a 2
Much more profitable, much more profitable. People are making lots and lots of money, I believe.
I had always thought that Zubair would be picked up for some sort of defamation case, some sort of wrong fact check that he might have done or whatever. But he was picked up for a tweet which was sarcastic.
Zubair was arrested for a non-issue. Imagine them actually finding an issue.
Have the platforms failed in recognizing a repeated pattern?
The platforms have deliberately chosen to fail. Google, Facebook, etc. They are not here to do good. Okay, they are here to make money. What makes money? Being friends with the government makes money.
So for people who are trying to make commentary, what would you tell them? For a small content creator, what can he do at this point of time?
India is a huge market. They are coming for Ambani son's pre-wedding bash. Are they coming because they are chatty buddies? No, because they are business partners.
Are people willing to pay for quality information and fact check in India?
I think one thing that AltNews has managed to do is separate views and revenue. People say that, oh, we are funded by Soros, but prove karo na. They know that we don't have FCRA. If there's no FCRA, Soros ka bhanja, Soros ka baap, koi bhi donate nahi kar sakta.
Often on Deshbhakt conversations, we have guests who need little introduction because you have seen them, they give tons of interviews, they're very popular on social media. Today's guest is rather unique because you might not have heard him enough, you might not have seen him on social media doing tons of vlogs, but definitely you would have seen his work. I'm talking about Pratik Sinha, co-founder, AltNews. Pratik, you know, the world knows what AltNews is. The world doesn't know as much about the original co-founder, the person who thought it all up, the person who's driving it all. Many, many thanks for joining us here on Deshbhakt Conversations.
Thank you so much.
So Pratik, when I put out, what we do is for our members, we put out a questionnaire. So for Deshbhakt members, they can come and ask questions. And I said, this is one person who's a very soft-spoken person, but his work speaks louder than his voice. So you don't scream and shout, and I don't see you pick up fights on social media, but you really have picked up a massive fight with AltNews and on the whole ecosystem and lies. So there are tons of questions that I've got from our community, but I want to first start off with elections 2024. Let's address the elephant in the room. As per your estimate, as we start off this conversation, I want to understand first and foremost from you, how much of fake news is going to play a role in elections 2024?
It is going to play a huge role. It has been playing a huge role. Yeah. The thing that has changed about misinformation, disinformation being used to change narratives, being used to shape narratives, is that when we first started working in 2017, we could see a distinct jump in the amount of disinformation during election period. Even now it is jumping, but the jump is much smaller. And that is because it is not because during misinformation, people are putting less misinformation, but 365 years, people are putting misinformation. So anytime anything happens, farmers' protest, CA/NRC, Russia-Ukraine war, every narrative around every issue has to be micromanaged. And anytime the narrative goes out of control, then you use a combination of mainstream media, social media to manage it. For example, during the Russia-Ukraine war, the government was clearly on the back foot. For example, one kid had died in Ukraine, and people were questioning. People from Pakistan were rescuing Indians. I mean, that is the worst nightmare for this government. And so then how do you control that narrative? And that is where you see certain channels going there and saying, oh, this government can't be blamed because students had been asked to evacuate for a very long time. The mainstream media put out videos. One video shows a plane going into a no-fly zone, claiming that Modi has sent a passenger plane into a no-fly zone where no country has ever been able to send a plane in a war zone, and he's evacuating people. It was false information. So every narrative around every issue has to be micromanaged, and at the end of the whole Russia-Ukraine thing, when different ministers took roses and to get people, the narrative had already been sort of managed. From where they started, which was in a minus, they were in a plus. So every issue narrative is micromanaged, and misinformation is a part of that in changing narratives, in distorting narratives.
When you bust all these lies, when you put out the truth, and then months later in election campaign, you see Papa war Rukwadi ads running, do you feel a sense of failure, or do you think that no, people understand that this is just brazen lies that are being now broadcast in terms of election propaganda?
No, I don't think everybody understands. If it was that brazen, then why would they broadcast it? It has to have an impact. It's just that sometimes it backfires. Maybe this Papa war Rukwadi thing has backfired in some way because it was just too brazen. But for example, Rajnath Singh, Amit Shah, JP Nadda, before this actual video came out, they have been saying in every election rally that Mr. Modi stopped the war.
Yeah.
So it is not that they were not using that. It is just that this form of expression backfired. But they have been using that propaganda all the whole time. And such lies are being repeated. This is not the only lie that is being repeated. Such lies are being repeated again and again. So I don't think that misinformation, this whole thing is backfiring in any which way yet, because how would people know it is false?
Yeah.
For example, when this whole when the whole thing that Mr. Modi stopped the war,
yeah,
every mainstream media broadcasted.
Correct.
Right? So then that is the truth that has been established. So, for example, I was recently in Raipur in a taxi, and the taxi guy is like कि बाहर तो मोदी जी ने इंडिया का नाम बढ़ा दिया है.
Correct. How can you counter that?
No, so I asked him, अच्छा आपको कैसे पता है? So he said, मैंने पूछा कि आप बाहर गए हो? तो बोला नहीं गए, मीडिया ने बताया है. So now that is his reality. If you control the information ecosystem 360 degrees, if you control the information ecosystem of an individual, then you shape an alternative reality. And we are seeing that not just in India, in many countries. For example, what is the reality of someone staying in Israel? How is that just a few hundred kilometers or whatever, a few thousand kilometers, not thousand, few, whatever the distance is between Palestine and Israel, it's not a huge place. Yeah. They're killing thousands and thousands of people, and there isn't any kind of a mass upheaval here. It is not, we are feeling it. We are feeling that, oh, children are dying. It is a regular human emotion. Now, how are they controlling the human emotion there? By playing a certain narrative, by playing a certain story. So these management of narratives is happening world over.
So would you then say that there are some things that even alt news, despite the huge influence it has been and the credibility it has been able to garner, there are some things that you can't fight? I've always wondered, because these conversations I've also had with parents, with relatives, मोदी जी कोशिश तो कर रहे हैं, देश का नाम ऊपर तो हुआ है. How do you counter this? देश का नाम ऊपर नहीं हुआ. I can show you a passport index where we've actually fallen. Or that fact that Indians are actually not worshipped suddenly when they are going abroad. But how can you counter? Is there a limit to fact check also? That's what I'm trying to understand.
Yes, of course, there's a limit to fact check. No, so I think we have to rephrase the question. I mean, for example, when we first started about alt news, for me also, it's been a journey about understanding what this information ecosystem entails. So these days, I don't just talk in terms of fact check and misinformation. I talk in terms of information ecosystem. What is information ecosystem? Who makes up the information ecosystem? So, for example, from OTT, where Kerala story is coming saying that 16,000 women from Kerala have joined ISIS. Now, how many people know that they have not? Because for a fact to become a non-fact, there has to be countering. So to your question that, oh, does fact check work? In that sense, fact check doesn't work, because how many people read alt news? How many people, alt news content is also taken by many channels, including YouTube channels. They're saying alt news se likha hai. So the reach is there much beyond what we publish on the website.
True.
But still, what is the size of propaganda? The war is between the size of propaganda, this versus that. And right now it is extremely lopsided.
If I was to do 100 versus alt news, if 100 was propaganda, how much would alt news be? How much of a dent would you think you're making if the size is 100?
0.0 something. Yeah. See, what I would say is that, what alt news sort of did, AltNews Boom Live, all of us came around that 2016, 2017 time. And I think what we did was that we made the issue of disinformation, misinformation, that this issue exists. Till then, there was no acknowledgement that, oh, this is a real issue. So I think that is the first thing that I think the initial fact-checking organizations can take credit for.
True.
That is, till then it was not in the public consciousness कि अच्छा इतना ज़्यादा झूठ बोला जा रहा है, वो public consciousness में नहीं था. So we brought that into the public consciousness.
WhatsApp was gospel truth.
Yes. So now people think, oh, it could be false. That that it could be false. That is a important intervention.
True.
I believe, and I that is where we take some credit that people's thinking that it could be false is something that I think we played a part in that kind of intervention. But it could be false and it is false. There is a huge journey between it could be false, it is false, is it true? And to do that journey, you need other players to take part. Where, let's say, had our mainstream media not been as pro-government as it is right now, then this whole story of war rukwa, they wouldn't have happened in the first place. It is because the size of propaganda is so much that every mainstream media journalist with their millions of followers, if they put out the same falsehood, then that is what reaches people. Then few people, it's just that this meme has gone viral and all of that has happened. But the story is about the size of the propaganda and what is
it's so it's ironic is that you're saying that if propaganda is 100, you're making actually the effective dent that AltNews would have been is a 0.1 or let's say even 1. And even then you get this kind of abuse, this kind of trolling, this kind of the fact that you are the ones who are wrong, you are the ones who are the anti-nationals. What I've always wanted to understand, and have you got more insight into this, is when you're talking about dealing with this whole IT cell, this abuse, what is this IT cell? Have you been able to now get a better understanding? How many of them are natural people? How many of them are paid? How many of them are actually sitting in some sort of a factory workshop and trying to spread this disinformation? What is the physical shape of this propaganda machinery today?
The physical shape is huge. So what we should call the IT cell is actually the one which is associated with the party and which the party is paying for. I think that we should also be clear in our head what we define whom as. So the IT cell, BJP is, I'm sure, paying salaries to a lot of people to do their social media work. They have the social media groups in every, district, block, all of that. They have created this massive infrastructure which includes WhatsApp, Facebook, Instagram. That is your BJP ka IT cell.
Quick intervention. No other party in your knowledge has even come close to creating something like this?
The expanse of it, no. The expanse of it, no. Then there are other people who, in fact, they are more visible on social media, who have realized that one can make a political career out of social media. Okay, and people have made political career out of social media. For example, Tejinder Bagga, who started off as somebody on social media, then there's a photo of him sort of pointing his hand at Arundhati, disrupting one show, another show, and then eventually he's become a BJP politician. But social media has played a huge part in making of his career.
Yes.
Right. So now there are these people who everybody is looking to gain something out of it, whether it is financial, whether it is social value, whether it's financial value, some value they are trying to get out of this. Now, for example, this person, I forget his name, he is the CEO of Bluecraft, this company called Bluecraft, something who has brought out the couple of Modi books and all of that. Now, he used to be a supporter on social media now. Then he was part of MyGov. I think, in fact, he was the one in before 2014 elections who had put out a picture of somewhere in China or someplace, something as Ahmedabad BRTS.
Okay.
So this was before 2014 elections.
Standard practice, huh?
And then he was with MyGov, and now he's running a company which I think is a profitable company, which so everybody has made a journey and and it has also been a financial journey. And now there are many such Bluecrafts now. There are many people in the right wing who have made their own companies and who are making money out of that. So it has become a career thing.
So is it right to say that this is a 2 rupee troll, or it's much more profitable than a 2?
Much more profitable. Much more profitable. People are making lots and lots of money, I believe.
And you're saying while the spike was earlier much more in 2019, now the spike is a little lesser because the fake news is anyways overall grown to such an extent. So in this election, what should people be wary of when they see some sort of news, some sort of claim? What should they be wary of? Specifically, I'm asking about election related stuff.
So the first thing is that I believe that I was not trained as a journalist. Okay, I worked 15 years as a software engineer. I came into this field and I've learned a few things without having that training. So the first thing is that I believe that everybody on who has access to social media is actually a journalist, in the sense that they're consuming information, they're producing information. The production part as well. There were not as many avenues to produce information for a regular citizen. The coming of social media has sort of democratized that, and people are producing information now. So now you consume certain information, you produce some information. Now, any one of them should adhere to certain journalistic principles because they are doing the work of a journalist, which is you ask the questions, you ask the 3 W's, where, what, when. You ask those questions, you think about things critically. So I believe that journalistic education should be given in schools, not just colleges. And my experience with some students in Calcutta who have, we're trying to do some kind of work. I believe that children as young as 12 to 14 are able to pick up concepts.
Pratik, but I'm sorry, I can't control but smiling or a little laughing inside. Is you are saying that citizens have to be journalists, ask the 3 W's. On the other hand, the reality is that India is the fulcrum of fake news. So why is it that far away from asking the 3 W's, why are we the capital of fake news? Fake news, technology, people, politics, polarization, bigotry exists all over the world. Why does it happen so much more in India? Why?
No, it is happening elsewhere as well. It is happening elsewhere as well, and has had disastrous outcomes. For example, Rohingya exodus. Imagine the attack on the capital. No, that is an equivalent of attacking the Parliament of India. Okay, that is the magnanimity of it, that people wore all kinds of costumes and entered the capital because they thought that that Trump had actually won the election and the election was taken away from them. So imagine such a huge population believing that your complete electoral system has failed and that everyone is lying to you. So that was the level of misinformation even in US. So I don't think firstly that it is right to say that, India, but India is obviously the number of people. I believe, education plays a huge role, and there are other kinds of misinformation which are in India which will probably not work as well in the Western world. So, for example, if you might remember the child kidnapping rumors.
Oh, yes.
Right? So, where parents are being told that people from outside who look disheveled will come and be careful of them, don't open their door because they will kidnap your child, they will sell your child for organs, etc. Now, people became so scared that they came out and started killing people. In 1 year, some 24, totally I think the death toll was anywhere between 40 to 48 over 3-4 years before they got control over the issue. Now that is where, that is I think how we understand what is different between India and elsewhere, that, this cannot happen in the US, in my opinion. You cannot tell an American parent that someone is going to come in. So the ability to create fear is so much more. At the end of the day, disinformation works on your emotions, right? And what is the ability to create a certain emotion within someone, right? For example, this whole Hindu-Muslim thing is ki Hindu khatre mein. That is an emotion, right? And you have to keep working on that emotion. Think of what the issue of love jihad was 10 years ago and what it is now.
Yes.
They have worked on it relentlessly over the last 20 years to make it a reality and a law today. So, and then how do you work on it? When something like Shraddha Walker happens, the most grotesque crime, there's no doubt about that. But are grotesque crimes happening are only Muslims doing the grotesque crimes? But what you do is that then you focus on one case. Every primetime show will only show that for 7 days. Then obviously, then you will think that, a parent whose daughter is probably dating a Muslim man
will meet the same.
Will think that, oh, my child is going to meet the same fate. So
this is technically not fake news. And this is what you're talking about, the whole disinformation ecosystem, where the news may not be fake, but it's the targeting and it's the weaponization of that particular bit of news to create.
So the Shraddha Walker news is definitely not false, but so for example, Srinivasan Jain's book has come out, which, on the first chapter is Love Jihad, where he's broken down, the 3 authors have broken down all the claims and showed how this issue is sort of a matter of fiction. And so they have taken different claims which have been made vis-a-vis Love Jihad, and they've broken down how it is a false, all of this is a false claim. There's no reality to the fact that the Muslim community is trying to ensnare Hindu women and all of that, whatever that thing is. So, but if you keep repeating it, so they want to set a narrative. Okay, now they will use certain elements of what is happening in the society, twist it and form their narrative. So for right now, any news channel, okay, anything happens where in a couple where the man is Muslim and the woman is Hindu, it will automatically call love jihad. Everything is now called love jihad. So
you talked about love jihad, you talked about the kidnappings, the WhatsApp. I mean, there were literally the WhatsApp killings. WhatsApp killed those people. Yeah. What has been the most devastating fake news, if I was to ask you, 1, 2, or 3 that you've countered in these years of busting fake news? I mean, it's not a compulsory question. I don't want to put rankings onto it, but some of the most worrisome.
I don't know what is devastating, but I can sort of tell you what had the most impact on society in the shortest period of time. And that was during the COVID time when this whole Tablighi Jamaat thing happened. And then it was being claimed that Muslim fruit vendors are using that as a vehicle to spread COVID. Muslim fruit and vegetable vendors, and then some fruit and vegetable vendors were attacked here in Delhi. People faced physical attacks. We debunked a case of misinformation where this man in Gujarat goes to a petrol pump and then he's giving out change and a note falls on the ground. And it can happen to anyone, that you're taking out money and a note falls. The petrol pump owner took that footage, went to the police, saying that, look, he's spreading COVID. The police arrested him. Then we did a story where he sent us a video showing that he's had an operation on either his left hand or right hand, and he sort of took off his shirt and showed that it's a completely operated hand, and is that he has limited functionality in his hands, and that is how the note was dropped. So there were multiple such cases during the whole Tablighi, starting with the Tablighi Jamaat was a real thing. But starting with that, the way it was shown, for example, India Today showed the image of a skull cap while showing COVID numbers.
Yes.
On the backdrop.
Yeah.
So, and then they only kept talking about it, whereas the media even forgot to mention that a similar Tablighi Jamaat event was going to happen in Bombay, where the Bombay police refused permission, the Delhi police gave permission. So all of these details were glossed over, and then they just focused on this.
I think we were the only country to put religion onto COVID. I mean, people did all the China COVID, etc., but I think we were the only country. So when you do all of this, the other thing that I have noticed about alt news is when you bust this, try to bust the narrative, then you obviously come at loggerheads with people saying either you are funded by Soros, the opposition, you are funded to take on the BJP, you are funded to only talk about Muslims and the minority community. How bad has this slanging match been, this mudslinging been? How much does it matter? And have you been able to counter it in terms of perception?
The fact that it happens says that we have some sort of an impact. They wouldn't have bothered doing it. It does not happen, let's say, with other fact-checking bodies. The fact that it happens with us shows that, we're somewhere where we are having an impact. Now, people say that, we are funded by Soros.
Yes.
Right. That is the...
I'm funded by Mamata Banerjee because I'm Banerjee.
Yeah. So you're funded by Mamata Banerjee, we are funded by Soros. But prove karo na. Prove karo. The fact is that everybody knows that we take donations on social media. That is our source. They know that we don't have FCRA. Okay? If there's no FCRA, Soros का भांजा, Soros का बाप, कोई भी donate नहीं कर सकता हम लोग को. ठीक है? क्योंकि अगर FCRA नहीं होते हुए हम लोग अगर बाहर से पैसा देते तो अभी मैं जेल में होता, मैं इधर नहीं होता.
Correct.
Right. The thing is that we don't have FCRA, so which is why no money can come in. Had Zubair was arrested for a non-issue, imagine them actually finding an issue. What would they do with us? Right?
I mean, we'll get to Zubair in just a bit. Why it's disturbing for me is because he was arrested for a satirical post, not even a fact check. So we'll get to that. But the fact that you don't have FCRA and yet you've been able to create such an impact from a very small team, how much has the growth been from what you started 2016, 2017 to now with very limited funds? I'm asking this question is because are you then saying that if you're passionate enough, driven enough, focused enough, even with limited funds, no Soros funds, no foreign funds, you are able to create an impact?
I feel that people who, number one, I do think that the AltNews team is a very passionate team. Has always been there, people who have left, people who have come. But one thing has been common is about the belief in the cause. And I think that is very important, the belief in the cause, what you're working towards. That is when in a job, any job, you either want money or you want happiness, right?
But money enough to survive also.
Money enough to survive. So I think we play decently.
Okay.
So I think we pay decently enough. But we cannot pay like an AFP, for example, right? AFP is also running a fact check. There are multiple organizations who are getting money from Facebook. We don't have that kind of money. But I think we are decent, we pay decently. But then the only reason why somebody would be willing to take a slightly lower pay would be for better work satisfaction, right? So I think that is one thing that because people believe in the cause, that is why I think a few of us have been able to sort of work at it and make some impact.
But if you had the money, you would have been able to make more impact today?
Definitely. Where is the doubt? Money is a huge enabling factor.
A lot of times people say, why don't you launch a channel? Why don't you become bigger? But then you would have had to take money which might have more complication.
Then the money is colored, right? The money is colored. Where is the money coming from? What are the expectations that are coming with the money? Here, our average donation is anywhere, month to month, it's anywhere between 800 rupees per person to 1,000 rupees per person. Okay? So,
has that increased over the years or it has stagnated? I'm asking you this question is because somebody who's tried similar stuff. Are people willing to pay for quality information and fact check in India? Simple question.
People are willing. It also, see, these are, I think, it's not that I have complete answers to these questions. People are willing. We have survived for the past 7 years. But it has become slightly more difficult. I would have to say that it has become slightly more difficult to get donations. But at the same point in time, what I was trying to say is that this model where we are getting anywhere between 800 to 1,000 rupees per person, I think that is see, if somebody was giving us whatever our monthly budget is 15 lakhs. If somebody was giving us 15 lakhs, and if we are dependent on one donor, or let's say 3 people giving us 5 lakhs each, then it is easy to call them and say, oh, you cannot donate. So then that month we have gone from 15 lakhs to 5 lakhs because 2 people have backed out. But how many people can you call and say, don't give 1,000 rupees?
Yeah, fair enough. So I was anyways also asking that is for anybody who might want to do this on their own, and why it is possible. And I constantly tell people that if you're passionate enough, it is possible even today to do this. Yes, scale is obviously a problem. But talking about scale, I wanted to come to something of scale on fake news also. We are now seeing a lot of chatter as far as AI is concerned, and how AI, and every other day there is this whole warning of this is what AI can do. Oh, this is a woman completely generated by AI. Oh, this script has been completely generated by AI. This voice has been completely generated by AI. Pratik, as far as AltNews is concerned, how are you looking at AI, the advent of AI? And we all know technology is first use is misuse. So where does fake news go in the world of AI?
AI has multiple concerns, ethical, moral, many concerns. For example, there are multiple articles about how people who used to work for companies making content are being replaced by AI.
Yes.
And there are many, these are real issues. But as far as the issue of political disinformation goes, there are many kinds of disinformation. As far as the issue of political disinformation goes, I don't see it having a huge impact in India yet. If you take all the fact-checking websites, if you look at how many articles they have done, which have to do with AI, deepfake, or certain even simpler tools, manipulation, I think they're limited number of articles. There have been cases where, let's say, a dead person has been revived. I don't consider that disinformation. I consider that a new way of doing propaganda. People are not being fooled to think that, oh, some dead person has come alive. So,
but I can use AI to make my opposition leader say something which he did not say, and people will believe it. And by the time you will do your fact check, it has already become a fact in their mind then.
But that is already happening. There are like 10,000, like there are 100 clip videos of opposition leaders. I think someone who has been targeted the most to clip videos is Rahul Gandhi. But for that you don't need AI. Disinformation and misinformation also need a context. It does not happen sans context. Everything needs a context.
Okay.
So I believe a clip where you can see Rahul Gandhi in a real rally and him appearing to say something stupid is far more effective than him what can AI produce? A person above the waist. Or maybe take a full body, but the more effective visual thing with less errors is something they can produce above their waist and saying something to the camera.
Yes.
Right. It can't show a rally at this point of time. A deep fake thing cannot show Rahul Gandhi addressing a rally. Right. Now, it is more important for Rahul Gandhi to falter in a public forum than in a private forum.
Okay.
So disinformation needs a context, and which is why I think see the thing is that every on social media in India, everything that has been said where at some point there was some hope in humanity, that hope is gone. so it is not that people can fall to any level, and so if AI could actually have been used, it would be being used right now. The fact is that it is not there right now.
Okay.
Even people who are writing articles about AI have only limited examples to quote. So where is the issue of AI? I'm not saying that AI is not an issue. For example, AI is a huge issue in case of scams.
Yes.
Where people are being fooled to think that oh, your daughter is calling or your son is calling. So to extort money, those things. Deepfake audio is going to be, in my opinion, if something is going to be the next big issue, I think it's going to be deepfake audio. Where let's say you put out an audio on WhatsApp where you say that, oh, this politician has said something. I think that is very dangerous.
Our interview could be replaced with deepfake audio where we are discussing and saying that Supreme Leader is the greatest of all time or something like that also.
Yeah, but I don't think it is going to have an impact. Firstly, again, disinformation needs a context. Right?
So now the real interview is anyways out there.
Yeah, and the real interview is out there, and I am not saying anything good about the Supreme Leader before or after. Okay, so then, अच्छा suddenly ये क्या बोला? So then I can say, look, it is an anomaly, right?
Okay.
So,
and I also wanted to understand this. When I see the stuff that is going on in America, which is beyond fake news, I call the conspiracy theories are beyond fake news.
Yeah.
Have we then more to see? Agar मैं AI side, let's take AI on the side. There are these conspiracy theories. The election was rigged, it was snatched, is one example of what you quoted about the attack on the Capitol. The whole thing on Trump is just a conspiracy, or one man setting himself on fire, again recently in America. So, could we have conspiracy theories as the next problem for you to deal with?
Love jihad is a conspiracy theory. So we already have it.
True.
We already have it. It is not that we don't have it. But, for example, the 5G conspiracy theory during COVID. Now, see, that is the thing that I think more work needs to go into. What I'm trying to say is that disinformation, all of this is intrinsically linked to human emotion. And so during COVID, it is easy to say, 5G हो रहा है इसलिए COVID हो रहा है. सब इतना डरे हुए थे. तभी तो रामदेव बाबा ने इतना कोरोनल बेच दिया. Right? क्योंकि you can sell anything at that point of time.
And do you think, since we're talking about COVID, do you think that science also has to be a little more aggressive? Because I think one of the reasons why people have been still linking post-COVID deaths to not COVID, but to vaccination is because science hasn't been conclusive enough to prove that no, it was not because of vaccinations that these deaths are not happening. It was because of COVID that these deaths are happening. Does science also needs to sometimes step up a little bit more? How did this 5G thing also go?
I think science education has to, not science.
Yeah, okay.
Science education, that the fact that science cannot move that fast. Science, nothing, it takes time for science to do research, to come out. So science education has to move faster. There has to be, again, more critical. There has to be ways in so that people have a better understanding of the world around them. Now, someone who's 50, 60 years, 70 years old, first time they're going on, digital India, digital India. Now anybody's calling them and saying, give OTP, and they're giving OTP. Now, before we went into this OTP thing, shouldn't we have at least had a nationwide campaign of what are the risks of it? Did we foresee the risks?
So I completely understand that obviously it's playing on fear and emotions, and Coronel is a very good example. Let's hope that the Supreme Court actually takes more into cognizance. We did an episode also. The irony is that the Supreme Court really did not come down strong on Baba Ramdev because of Coronel. It's because he lied to the Supreme Court. He really in contempt of the Supreme Court, and now the Supreme Court is hitting back. So we hope that somewhere the truth comes out. But while on one hand, I agree that it is fear and emotions being played on. The other is confirmation bias, where I want to believe something and this fake news is helping me to believe something. How do you handle this whole confirmation bias issue? Because some people might just say that your fake news hunting also busting may also have some confirmation bias or your own bias. AI may have some sort of bias also. So this bias question, I mean, we get it every day that, oh, you're not neutral, you're also biased. How does one answer that?
Do I have a bias? I'm sure I have a bias. The point is that what are the processes you build as an organization to deal with personal biases? That is the question. Is there no filter between your bias and what goes out on alt news? Right. If it was my bias that was going out on alt news, then alt news wouldn't have done well. So you have to build processes as an organization where there are multiple people who are looking at the same story. There are multiple reviews happening, especially the big stories, and then the information goes out. So I believe that what is bias? Bias is it's a point of view because of a certain social conditioning. All of us have social conditioning. Which human does not have social conditioning? All have our own biases. If someone says that, oh, I don't have a bias, then I'm like, आप society में नहीं पैदा हुए थे क्या? तो सब लोग का खुद का bias है, अलग-अलग type का, चाहे वो religious bias हो, political bias हो, अलग-अलग type का bias हो. But then what training, education, etc. does is that it makes us capable of putting processes which ensure that our bias is not impacting. I'm not saying that it is zero impact, right? I'm sure there will be some impact, but at the what is coming outside, like we have so many times fact checked what Congress has said. We have fact checked things where Mr. Modi has been said कि उन्होंने schooling नहीं किया है जबकि किया है. अभी I have never sort of hidden that I don't like the politics of BJP. Right? It is out there. So then why did I do the stories of these? Because I know that number one, the issue here is not just BJP, Congress, all of that. The issue here is of human criticality. There is a lack of human criticality. I am not immediately interested in the issue of con election jeeta. Yes, it is an important issue.
Correct.
But there are other basic issues which are influencing these issues. So for me, my primary interest is this basic issue which is, how does information ecosystem work? So that is what my personal interest is. Then the fact is that I know that people believing in any kind of falsehood will create more division in the society, will create more polarization. ये जो confirmation bias बढ़ते जाएगा, उसका उपाय क्या है कि आप सब लोग को बोलो कि नहीं, आप भी गलत हो.
Correct.
तो where is the interest? Is the interest a political interest, or is the interest of how the society is forming, shaping, moving forward?
Let my political sense kick in and tell you, and we get kicked because of this. You are saying you will check जो मोदी के खिलाफ झूठ बोल रहा है, and you will check जो राहुल के खिलाफ झूठ बोल रहा है, and therefore you will make enemies on both sides. You will get whipped on both sides, which we do get whipped also. So does that not reduce your traction, your reach? Does it bother you, or you are saying that that's okay, that comes with the turf, that no particular side is going to like you?
See, this issue of traction, and which is why I brought the issue of donation. Traction in terms of people who read us, I think one thing that AltNews has managed to do is separate views and revenue. That views and revenue are not directly linked.
Okay.
And I think that is very important for a media organization, because if views are dictating revenue, then that is a very problematic model. So it doesn't matter if traction reduces, the donation comes, because we have created a different value proposition. So and we are in the present model because views and revenue are directly linked. Okay. Because then you're forced to do the traction. You're forced to do what is quote unquote popular.
Yeah.
Right? Why is there so many YouTube channels who are doing pro Modi stuff? Why are they? Because they have views.
Correct.
It does not matter what they believe, what they not believe. If they have to make money out of YouTube, they have to be pro Modi. So this whole thing about traction, कि traction चला जाएगा, वो anxiety नहीं है at this point in time.
So then let's get to you use the word media model and media platforms. Let's get into that also. AltNews, besides fact check, according to me, also sets a standard as far as independent media organizations is concerned. I think somewhere down the line, Deshbhakt takes inspiration also. Because we pride ourselves in saying that till date we have never taken one donation except what comes, of course, on memberships on Patreon, but no single individual donor, no single individual person, business, party, etc., etc. It's all either YouTube or subscriptions and some rare advertisement which anyways people get to see. So, given the fact that you have survived, as you say, what would you say is the evolving digital landscape? If somebody was to come ahead and say, I want to talk about facts, I want to talk about education, I want to talk about news, whatever the case may be. Is it possible for a single person, a small team, to survive, and how, if yes?
I think this needs a larger conversation amongst all of us. That number one, whether it is possible or not, I think it is possible. But this conversation cannot just happen between you and I. I think what we need is a bigger forum of many of us, where we first put down the issues that, look, we are being traction is what is, as journalists, should we only be worried about traction? Is that the world that we want to live in? So what does the alternative world look like? So first, all of us need to have that conversation. We all need to come together and say that, boss, what Facebook and YouTube has done to us is wrong, and we need an alternative. That is the conversation that happens, needs to happen first. Then we figure out what the alternatives are and what the alternatives could look like. How do we create revenue? How do we create traction? How do we talk about different? So there are, for example, I have worked as a software engineer for 15 years. I'm enormously sort of passionate about open source. There are many open source softwares which are now talking about decentralization. And I think it is a very, very important conversation. Everything is centralized, right? Google, Facebook, they are these huge behemoths. They can do anything. Yesterday, कुछ दिन पहले हिंदुत्व वॉच को बैन कर दिया, जो farmer accounts से उनको बैन कर दिया. Is that ethical or moral? They don't care for it, because for them, at the end of the day, whether India is a huge market, they are coming for Ambani Son's pre-wedding bash. Are they coming because they are chatty buddies? No, because they are business partners. Why are they business partners with Ambani? Because they own Jio. How has Jio been possible? Because of tacit government support that now they are almost becoming a monopoly. So a social media monopoly is now working with an organization which is going to become an internet monopoly in India. It is a marriage made in heaven, whatever you say. They have to work together. Now, all of this, at the end of the day, they are not interested in human rights. All of that is only for posturing.
Agreed. So Facebook, for example, ask anybody who does political commentary on Facebook, and they will tell you is that try to put up anything which is a little antithetical to the government. It will not be deleted. It will just not get reach. It's sort of a shadow ban. We've stopped worrying about Facebook also. YouTube is a bit of a last resort, but we are seeing YouTube channels also being shut down. So for people who are trying to make commentary, as somebody who's actually taken up literally the battle with the system and to fight for the truth and facts, what would you tell them for a small content creator? What can he do at this point of time?
What we have to do together. Firstly, this cannot be an individual battle. It cannot be an individual battle. If we reduce it to an individual battle, then we have failed already. Okay. It has to be, which is why I will say again, we have to come together and we have to discuss these issues together as individuals, that look, these are the issues that we are facing. How do we address it? And it needs multiple skills. It is not just you need a software engineer, you need a system admin, you need a journalist, you need multiple heads to come together and say, okay, this is, so for example, what is the most effective tool in ensuring that you get across to content which has been blocked? It is a browser called Tor. Okay. Now let's say if all content, people who are making content who have a certain interest decide that at the end of our videos we will put a 5-second clip that if this channel happens to be blocked, go to Tor browser and go to this URL where this is the alternative location where we are hosting our videos. Okay. So if our channel is ever blocked, then do that. Now, should you do that after it is blocked, or should you be doing it already? Saying that, telling that users may be blind to it after one point of time, but it'll stay in their memory कि अच्छा आकाश बनर्जी ने मुझे बोला था कि उसके वीडियो में सबसे लास्ट में आता था कि अगर बैन हो जाता है कभी तो मुझे इधर जाना है. वो अगर आप लास्ट डे पे करोगे तो कितने लोग देखेंगे, आप अभी से अगर करोगे तो कितने सारे लोग देखेंगे कि वो that'll be number one, the fact that we are under this kind of threat becomes known, because you're repeating the threat, that oh, this is the threat, this is the threat, this is the threat, and then they are already aware that oh, if this happens then this is what we need to do. So then you're not building your audience from scratch at that point in time.
No, we are under threat, and I joke with the editor also ki 2 of our jokes are going to get us arrested any particular day. This is a good point. Maybe we'll incorporate it, is that have an alternative website. Even if you're blocked, then go to Tor. In terms of getting shut down, we keep joking about it, but now that joke is translating into reality when YouTube channels are getting shut down. Do you worry about getting shut down? Because I know that beyond a certain point of time, if the government had to reach out to you, if you really had skeletons in your cupboard, it would have come out by now. So after nothing has been found, my CA laughs at me. He's saying, I said ED. Kehta hai, given your revenue, ED is not going to knock out your door. They'll embarrass themselves. That is how little you have. given the fact that if there are no skeletons, there are no financial frauds that you may have done, do you still worry that after doing everything right, you might be shut down tomorrow?
You have to worry. You have to worry because the game is not played by rules. Yeah. If the game were played by rules, then we don't have to worry. But the game is not being played by rules. So they'll find some rule. Right now, they are trying to build their own fact-checking organization. They are trying to build something. Tomorrow, they'll come out with a crazy law that only people who we recognize will fact-check. I'm saying anything.
No, it can happen.
Right? Anything can happen. So the game is not played by rules, and they can bring out any new rule. So we have to be worried. And but just being worried is not enough. What it can lead to, we have to constantly prepare for an eventuality, even if it doesn't arrive. We have to prepare that eventuality.
Okay, fair enough. I mean, that's a point, and I'll take that conversation further with you also. But just sticking with that whole thing about, I think, perhaps one of the most stressful points in time for AltNews is when Zubair was picked up. And I found it personally very disturbing is I had always thought that Zubair would be picked up for some sort of defamation case, some sort of wrong fact check that he might have done or whatever, spreading public disorder these days. I mean, even if you speak the truth, it could be public disorder. But he was picked up for a tweet which was sarcastic about a movie, a 3 or 4 year old tweet about a movie that was 30 years old. I, for once, felt so directly impacted is because satire and sarcasm is half the things that we do. So he wasn't even picked up for what he does. He was picked up for a joke, which by one person who had 1 follower, I think, on Twitter. Yeah. How did that play out? Did it come as a shock to you? Did you expect something like this to blow up to that extent?
So that was the first time I traveled with Zubair to Delhi. This was not the first case on Zubair. उसके पहले भी केस हुआ है. That was the first time I traveled with Zubair to Delhi. Zubair said कि कुछ होने वाला है. Zubair को अंदर से लग रहा था कि कुछ होने वाला है. And I told Zubair, ठीक है, I'll also travel. I'd already shifted to Calcutta at that point of time. So I traveled from Calcutta to Delhi and he came from Bangalore to Delhi. We were in the same hotel room. Next day we go to this place in Delhi. I forget the name of that place. I keep forgetting the name of the place. But this big police place which is investigating the cyber crimes, quote unquote cyber crimes. And I was sitting there. We went with some lawyers. Me and the lawyers were sitting niche for 3-4 hours, and eventually Zubair came down and he nodded. He looked at me and nodded and said he was getting arrested. That kind of a thing. Did it come as a complete shock? No. That fear was there that this is going to come someday. That has been there for a very, very long time. We also know that they are not going to play by rules. If you cannot arrest him if you had played by rules, you cannot arrest him. So we also knew that it is going to come in one such form where they will. What is the easiest thing to say against a Muslim? कि आपने हिंदू का religious sentiment hurt किया. That is the easiest thing to accuse a Muslim man. So actually that is the least of the thing. Ki they actually found something that you say, why did you say this about Hanuman? But it was actually from a movie clip. It was not saying anything about Hanuman. Yeah. But the fact that it came in that form is actually says that, okay, so if you have to arrest a Muslim man, then you have to somehow show that he has hurt Hindu sentiments. And they found one such thing, and one person with 1 follower, I don't know who created that Twitter account. One has to look into who has created that Twitter account. But someone created that Twitter account to arrest Zubair. And magically that Twitter account posted a complaint and he was arrested. So, but then for 20...
This is what is called too much democracy. Yeah.
And of course, it was very, very stressful. We have a young team. Everybody was scared. What will happen to the organization? But Zubair pulled through, and then all of us pulled through.
Zubair, I'm sure, came out stronger because what I noticed is after he came out, he has been much more vocal on social media. Yeah. What I find very fascinating is because I've seen AltNews for such a long time. I have met you. We've done a long time ago, we did a conversation also on Deshbhakt. That was a virtual conversation. what I find very interesting is while Zubair is going all guns blazing, taking up, and he does not spare anybody. I mean, somebody says anything, I let it be. But Zubair doesn't let anything be. He just takes on people, and I see him engaging with a lot of people direct one-on-one. While you are the one who is a little bit more restrained, you are the one who is posting more of alt news content, alt news fact check, not getting into fights. What I want to understand is this chemistry between these two people. One who's very aggressively out there, despite, yes, you're right, the surname and the threat that he faces, and you on the other hand quietly doing your side of the work. How does this equation work? I'm interested to know.
It's working. The equation is working. Obviously, we are different people, so that is where you come into the question of forming an organization and how much space is there for personal expression in an organization. Is there space? Isn't there space? So those are the questions. Those are the fundamental organizational questions then you attempt to answer. And we are still in the process of answering that. But Zubair is utilizing the social media space to do something that he believes is necessary. I have other interests. So we are. So for example, I'm presently there's a small team in Calcutta which is working on education.
Okay.
And
what is that about?
We are trying to create a curriculum for children 12 to 14, class 7, 8, 9.
Okay.
So we are testing it in some schools and things like that. We are pilot testing it. So I think an organization should give space for people to experiment a little, and not everybody needs to be in agreement with each other. I mean, even in a family, not people are in agreement with each other. So especially for an organization to survive, you have to have that kind of flexibility that, you may not be completely agreeing with each other, but the organization needs to have space for that.
So do you find yourself telling Zubair, don't pick up so many fights?
No, and I tell him all the time. My mother, who's the director, also tells him all the time, ki, bhai, itna, be a little careful. Being careful is necessary. It is being strategic is necessary because this is not a short-term thing, right? It's a long-term thing. We are not here. The issue of disinformation is not going away. The issue of corruption of information ecosystem is not going away. Whatever issue we are seeing in the society is not going away. So then you have to pace yourselves in a way that you're there for the long term.
True.
You have to plan for the long term, which means that you have to be strategic. It is not just about right or wrong. You have to be strategic in the way you operate, so that while you do everything you want to do, you still ensure that risks are only those risks are taken which are needed. Risks have to be taken.
So just to then carry on this thought is, while AltNews is a fact-checking website, it's a well-known fact is that fake news travels faster than fact checks. I see a lot of times Zubair putting out information which is breaking news actually, and it gets picked up also because he has that sort of credibility. What would you say to that? That moving from just fact check after the quote maybe damage has been done and trying to rectify it, a lot of times when a news is freshly there, or it has freshly been tried to, somebody's trying to do some play with it, like, intercouple marriage or something like that. And you would see a counter post, which is not a fact check, which is just an opinion piece also, an opinion post coming out from Zubair. Does that work?
It is never pure opinion, firstly. He's also posting a
fact-based opinion.
He's posting a fact opposed to a fact.
Okay.
Or a claim, a fact opposed to a claim, not fact opposed to a fact. So typically once this thing comes out, then he will say, this is what the police has said in this matter. This is what is. So typically he's posting a fact as opposed to this. Now the AltNews internal process is that it only goes out after review. So anything which will go out on the AltNews domain AltNews handles, Facebook handle, Twitter handle, will always go through this process. That is Zubair's personal handle.
True.
And so a personal handle has to be treated as such as a personal handle. So then can an organization say, what a person. I, for example, see a lot of things on my personal handle. Now I don't as much, but for example, I used to comment a lot on religion or my disbelief in religion and all of that. Now, is that okay? I think it is okay. So that is where one has to try and figure out that what is the difference between an official handle, what is a personal handle. A personal handle, obviously, you cannot be one as an organization, otherwise you lose your identity.
True. Let me ask this then. Has there been a change in the whole thought process? When we started Deshbhakt, I'll give you an example. When we started Deshbhakt, it was more about satire. But what has happened is over the years, we've actually had people tell us on our faces that, okay, satire and all, theek hai, but we want the news, boss. Because they don't trust the mainstream media. They're saying, even if you don't do the satire, just give us the information. And because I come from a news background, I'm able to give that information. And they're very happy with that information. And there is, of course, a problem in India of understanding satire, as Zubair's arrest also explains to us that people don't understand satire. Has the core principle of alt news changed over the years, or you're still doing with that original thought that you started off with?
The core principle of alt news hasn't changed. The core principle of alt news is reflected by what goes out on the alt news handle. What does alt news do? We look at disinformation. What did alt news start doing? Additionally, we started documenting hate speech. So that is in line with our core principle. That is, there is a corruption of the information ecosystem in various forms. What does alt news additionally do? We talk about platforms. We talk about how Facebook, for example, let a murder run as an ad. So we talk about platform accountability. That is again based on our core principle. So the alt news.
And now we're doing education.
And now we're doing education. So the focus of alt news is in the domain of the information ecosystem. What is corrupting it, and what are the possible ways of alleviating?
What's your biggest success till date?
What is
besides surviving?
I don't think there is. I think it's a work in progress. I think it's a work in progress.
I also noticed this, that early on in the day, because we used to do a small show called Fake Bole Kawa Kate, and we used to take information from alt news. Your information is free. You use, still is.
Yeah, it is under a license called Creative Commons, CCSA, where we only ask for attribution, and this is a copyleft license.
Yeah. So, I mean, if you don't know, anybody can take alt news content. All you have to do is just mention that you took the content from alt news. And we used to do a small show called Fake Bole Kawa Kate. Despite making your content freely available, why is it that others haven't been able to catch up, or we haven't seen more alt news sort of websites? Yes, there were a few. I know Quint tried, Boom Live tried, but nothing that has had the impact. Had it been that we had a few more alt newses, the impact of fake news would have been a little lesser?
I can't say whether it would have been lesser or not, but firstly, we have to define what is different between alt news and other organizations. The difference is that, for example, we were talking about Zubair, right? And this is a constant conversation in the team. We actually not only bust misinformation, but then Zubair goes and individually tags every one of them. I don't do that.
Yes.
I don't do that. But Zubair says that it is because of that it actually there's actually an impact, and I can't disagree with him. But there's so these conversations are happening within the organization कि अच्छा ये करना चाहिए नहीं करना चाहिए. But the fact is that मैं भी पहले करता था जब शुरुआत होता, अभी नहीं करता हूँ, because I have slightly sort of taken a step back from active engagement on social media. But the fact is that we went beyond. We are not just posting an article. We are actually doing something with it. We are actually going and tagging people. We are utilizing social media to create to sort of to amplify it. We are using what social media has been used for to amplify it, and that is where I think it is slightly different, and that is where I think we also get attacked that we are not just fact-checking and then going back.
Then quickly coming back to the question of platforms, that because I've had the opportunity of interacting with some platforms also, and they say, what can we do? I said, first and foremost, you have to stop pretending. People can make mistakes. Wrong news can go out. But there is a clear difference between making a mistake and running a fake news factory where every other day there is a fake news that you are spreading out. Repeat offenders. And these social media platforms will just say, oh, acha, wrong, okay, maximum, okay, you delete this tweet, okay, you delete this video, and they continue. So have the platforms failed in recognizing repeated patterns?
The platforms have failed in many, many ways. The platforms, Google, Facebook, etc., they are not here to do good, number one. Okay, they are here to make money. What makes money in India? Being friends with the government makes money in India. You have to operate, you want to have land, you want to do these, you want to do that. You want permissions, you have to be friends with the government. Okay, so that is what makes money in India. Now, if you have to be friends with the government, then you cannot ban a Raja Singh. You cannot ban a Raja Singh. So Raja Singh is on Twitter. Raja Singh is saying that, oh, Muslimano ko ye kar do, Muslimano wo kar do, kyun uska social media account hai? Right, and there are so many of these people. The very issue of disinformation. See, disinformation, we are thinking that disinformation is not a thing in vacuum. A person who's putting out disinformation is necessarily putting out hate speech, because you're putting it out because you're putting it from a certain mindset, right? So then you are also saying terrible things about Muslims and this and that. There's no way that you are just sending out disinformation then you're saying sweet things. So anybody who's a repeat offender is also let's say if they in their policies, they say that their policy is that, oh, we cannot do anything vis-a-vis hate speech, because what do you say? We cannot ascertain the motive we can't do anything about misinformation because we can't ascertain the motive of misinformation, in the sense that, oh, are they doing deliberately or not deliberately? How do you ascertain that? And that's why we cannot do anything about it. Okay, you cannot ascertain the motive of why people are putting out lies, despite them doing it 100 times. We still give it to you that, oh, you cannot ascertain. But what about the other times when they are putting out hate speech? That is there in your policy. Why are you not acting on it? Why is Raja Singh still on Twitter? Why are so many people on social media? We are documenting hate speech. In fact, what you do is you actually, the organization which is actually looking at hate speech, Hindutva Watch, you go and restrict their account. So the platforms have see, when we say they have failed, लगता है कि गलती से हो गया है, गलती से नहीं हुआ है. The platforms have deliberately chosen to fail. This is part of the strategy, that you don't act on things which may make the government angry.
How much could they have done in terms of software implementation, AI implementation to stop fake news?
अरे बहुत कुछ कर सकते थे. मैं एक सिंपल एग्जांपल देता हूँ. आपका 50% to 60% of the misinformation is some old video or old image being published now. If you look at AltNews just timeline 2017 ka 2024, that is 50 to 60% of disinformation. Okay. Now, from a technological point of view, if an image exists in 2024, then 99% of those images have been published on the platforms into 2017. They already, if for example, आप किसी का music चुरा के दिखाओ, किसी का music चुरा के दिखाओ.
I had this experience while uploading the video. It said copyright strike. While uploading the video, it was that quick.
ठीक है, आप नहीं चुरा सकते हो. तो they have all the technology to know that an image from 2017 which exists on their platform in 2017, a video which exists on the platform in 2018 is being published in 2024. They don't need fact checkers for this. All they can say is that the image that you're looking at right now, and using language analysis, they can figure out that it's a political post. Through the profile of the page, you know it's a political page. True. You say that the video or image that you're looking at right now is not one that has been taken presently. It was initially uploaded on this platform on so-and-so date. That is factual.
That's enough.
That's enough.
That's enough.
Why haven't they done it?
Okay. So then let's try to end with a positive note in terms of some solutions, because a lot of times we are always said, "Acha, theek hai, tumne problem bata diya." I always say, first and foremost, realizing the problem, as you said, na, that WhatsApp could be fake. Realizing the problem is half the solution. But let's assume that there are enough and more people, at least on our Deshbhakt platform, and people who watch AltNews, they are aware of fake news. What all can they do in this particular day and age in 2024? First and foremost, are there any tools that should... I know there's AltNews that they can look at and AltNews they can follow. That is one. Besides that,
there are multiple tools, but see, before we get into tools, firstly, know that you have to look at multiple sources. Firstly, know that the whole motive is to hurry you into making a decision in your head. कि आप कुछ सोच लो. You have to step back. You, in this day and age where there is such a deluge of information, you cannot just be flowing with the flow. You have to take a step back. You have to wait for things to unfurl.
as a journalist, I find this very funny. I mean, I know that we were taught as television journalists to quickly hurry the information, break karo. I notice this proclivity amongst people to quickly forward whatever information that they have, as if they are journalists. They want to quickly forward this. Have you studied this phenomena?
Again, it is. आप अभी बोल रहे हो कि देखो मुसलमान ने हिंदू को मारा है, ये मीडिया नहीं बताएगी, इसको फॉरवर्ड करो. तो होता है ना, दिल पे लोग लगता है और चलो फॉरवर्ड करते हैं. तो again, you know, take a step back. People, see, the other thing is people in their day-to-day lives do not have the time and space to check every photo that they are getting on WhatsApp. Imagine people have to do that. They will not be able to do their work, their regular jobs, if they have to keep checking every video and photo that they have to get. But be more critical. The very process of taking a step back will allow more time and space to think about it, and it is no different from any other thing in your life. Let's say if you have a family feud, अगर उसी family feud में घुसे हो, अगर आप step back लेके सोचोगे नहीं, आप सोच पाओगे क्या उस issue को? आप उसको सुलझा पाओगे? आप तभी सुलझा पाओगे जब आप एक step back लोगे. If you calm yourself down and then you think about it. Okay. It is about any issue in life where you have to take a step back, and this is a time when you have to take a step back, think about it. Could it be true? Even that amount of criticality, it is not going to solve the problem, but it is going to help it a lot. कि थोड़ा आराम से, आप कोई जल्दी नहीं है हम लोग को लाइफ में.
You talked about educating youngsters. I think that's a great thing. I mean, it should be definitely in the curriculum. I always used to believe that it's the elder generation, that's the gone generation, the WhatsApp uncles as we call them. But recently I've interacted with some school kids also, completely brainwashed, having no idea about the reality and completely living in the WhatsApp universe. I used to have more hope from the youngsters. As somebody who actively deals with it is now going into schools also, which is the generation that we should worry about, the one that has already been lost, the uncles or the younger ones?
Actually, the uncles have seen a different world. The uncles and aunties have seen a different world. Their worldview is still wide in the sense that they have seen different eras. A 14-year-old child who opens a news channel today, I think we should also stop calling them just WhatsApp University graduate, because that actually sort of reduces the issue. Today, a 14-year-old who starts looking at news, anytime they go, any channel they go, there's only one worldview. Whereas the people, WhatsApp uncles who we are referring to, they have been exposed to other worldviews. So we should actually be very worried about our 14-year-old, because they have no exposure to any other worldview. Their worldviews is product of what is now, which is the present. The WhatsApp uncles' worldviews are product of many, many years.
This is scary. Okay.
So which is why we have to be very, very worried about our young generation. For example, what was that case where these kids were auctioning women? What was that case?
Oh, yes. Oh, yes. Of course. This guy was also arrested. Yes. They were auctioning women.
How old were they?
Yeah. Young kids, 20.
One of them, this was post-COVID. They went to his parents, and his parents said, I didn't know he's doing this. He's sitting in his room. They were getting radicalized sitting on the laptop.
I really hope this education for the youngsters then really works out. Okay. Final word for people who are watching this interview, and some of them do watch long format interviews. I'm very grateful to them. What would you tell them? What is their contribution in keeping independent fact checking and journalism alive?
One, read us, watch us. Definitely read us, watch us. But also, finances go a long way. So it is the common man who's going to support, and it is the common man who's been supporting the cause of democracy. The people who have deep pockets, who can do this, and their 5-minute event in some conference room can probably take care of 1 month's AltNews salaries. I mean, that is the kind of money that is out there. But they are never going to support independent journalism. It is actually the common man who has actually kept up independent journalism alive today, and I hope that they continue supporting us.
Pratik, many thanks for joining us here. Always a pleasure having a conversation with you. I really hope that people are a little bit more aware of what is going on and they read more of AltNews. Many thanks for joining us.
Thank you. Thank you so much.